policies, incident response plan, and network diagram, if you have one available. If you don't have these documents available, we can still complete the checkup. The questionnaire is simple. We make it available. We tried to limit it to a yes or no answer. Some questions do have follow-up questions, and we limited the amount of the fill-in questions to give the organizations more. We get clarification during the planning meetings on the questionnaire. The questionnaire can be completed by an individual or a group with the help of their managed service provider if they want. It's not a test of someone's knowledge. We are just gathering information and provide enough time with, so you can contact those people who you want. Once we have the information, most of those questions deal with one safeguard. One safeguard, and control are the same thing. The CIS control has 18 control areas, which are broad categories such as data protection or account management. But within each category, there are sub-controls or safeguards, which are individual functions that need to be implemented to improve your cybersecurity safety. For example, under the control for data protection, there's a safeguard that states you need to encrypt your data on your end user devices. It's specific to the task that you need to do. Here are the things that additional things we asked for. We asked for the IT policies, the incident response plan, if you have one, and a network diagram. These documents help answer some of the questions we have within the review process and helps us to have a better understanding of your system. Also, the system review adds a validity to the checkup process that we're doing. After our review is completed, we meet with the individual to discuss any identified gaps and offer recommendations. At this meeting, we also take time to go over the 20 safeguards to allow participants to improve or to ask more questions about each of the safeguards and get clarifications if there's an area they're having a trouble with or need a safeguard to improve. This image you see on your screen is the front cover of the document. And it is what we call a summary document. I don't refer to it as a report because it's not a report. In our office refers to an audit, and this is less formal. It includes an executive summary that gives an overview of the cybersecurity program, and it shows the dates when the checkup was completed. The dates are there to remind you that it is a point in time, from when we started the checkup to when we ended, and any changes you make to your system could change the results, or if new vulnerabilities are found, that could make the difference in your checkup. So also, again, this is to complement your current cybersecurity program. One of the favorite pages within this document is an at-a-glance overview of how the organization is meeting each safeguard. There are 7 main topics that we are covered. 3 of them can be seen on the screen. Policies and training in blue, incident response in purple, accounts and passwords in brown. We also cover computers and other devices, data protection, networks, and credit cards. And we color-coded this so that it will follow through the document. The check marks on the right indicate how the organization is meeting the safeguard. Strong means the government has met recommended criterion for that safeguard. Needs improvement means steps have been taken to implement the safeguard, but it's not fully in place, or it needs to be better documented. And not implemented means the government needs to focus on implementing that control, or in some cases, they have chosen not to implement it. These are recommendations, but not required. The questions are grouped together under similar topics, and we'll see how that plays out in our next section. As you can see, this slide has an image of one of the safeguards, which is accounts and passwords. Safeguard number 9, to protect accounts with administrative privileges by using multi-factor authentication. Each of the safeguard detailed page follows the same format, providing information in a logical succession. We've made great efforts to use plain language to talk about the safeguard, Then why is it important? We provide a statement about our observations that are in the middle, and then we provide recommendations to address any weaknesses. The page also shows at the bottom which CIS control is being addressed, and we give you links to additional references and resources. In some cases, the resources can help you implement that safeguard, and the references provide you additional information so you can have a better understanding. You can see some of the color coding on the left. This is so that it's a visual cue that people will want to find a detailed section quickly from the overview section. They can find it by following the color coding. Here are the recommendations are tiered to fit different types of organizations. They start with recommendations for those organizations that have IT staff, and then address organizations that use a managed service provider. I have had a couple organizations where they don't even have a managed service provider. They're essentially have internet service and then provide their own service and call IT support from a local shop or store. And in those cases, even in the recommendations at the very bottom, I give some recommendations that an individual can do. You can see some of the program participants' comments on the screen. In some cases, participants were able to improve or implement controls before the final meeting, resulting in immediate improvements with those organizations. I had that happen last week during my checkup with this organization. There's about 4 of them in that meeting, and they started having conversations about what they were doing or weren't doing. And they're like, oh, we can change that. I need to see that information. And so I just kind of sat back, but that's part of, in addition to identifying the gaps and giving an organization recommendations, part of my goal is to start that conversation. That's why these documents are written in a simple format, is because I may deal with an IT staff, I may deal with an IT manager, and they have the technical background. But at some point, they're going to share this information within their organization. And, as they move it up the chain towards the executive staff, those people may not have a technical background. So that's why we taken great efforts to keep this in the plain text. I want to talk about some of the resources that we have at the government, at the Checkup. In addition to the cyber checkup, we at the end of it, we like to talk about the resources we make available, because at the center, we do it for financial, we do it for cybersecurity, but I feel fortunate that I get to spend a lot of my time searching for cybersecurity. One organization will ask a question, and that gets me doing some research, and I find resources that are free, no cost, which sounds helpful. So that is one of those things that we offer, and we'll go into more details about those in a minute. I provide training. Currently, I'm working on an incident response plan. We recommend all organizations have one. So what I'm working on is developing a workshop where, in a 3 or 4 hour course, an organization can come there, customize the template that I have, and when they get back to their organization, they'd have that incident response plan. And that's more for organizations that do have an IT staff, because that incident response plan is dealing with the step-by-step process for dealing with a cyber attack. If you don't have an IT staff, you still need to have a plan as far as who's going to be your point of contact. Because even if you're using a managed service provider or an outside service, they'll do the technical work, but you need to identify somebody internally who will handle the questions of doing public notices. If there's a legal decision that needs to be made, the technical firm that's helping you won't make those decisions. They'll provide you information to help guide you, but the responsibility is on your organization. I do presentations, these webinars, I do many conferences throughout the summer. I do technical advice. If you have questions about cybersecurity, you can contact us and I will try to answer those questions. If it's specific about your organization, I may not be able to answer it completely because I don't know the ins and outs of your organization. But if you want to talk about implementing multi-factor authentication or some other aspect of cybersecurity, you can certainly reach out to our office and they'll get the information to me and we can have a conversation about that. And the majority of my time there is spent on the cyber checkups. We have a list of resources. If you want, you can scan that code or QR code and it will take you to the resource page. But if you go to the resource page, up at the top, you'll see a lot of different links, accounts payable, accounts receivable, federal grants. Those are information. If you click on them, they give you more resources, best practices, guides, checklists on how to handle those types of activities. And the majority of them deal with financial information because the auditors, majority of our clients deal with finances. But if you get down to the bottom, you'll see my favorite tab, which is the one on the left on cybersecurity. And if you click on that tab, you'll see some cybersecurity resources that we have. On the left there, you'll see a small thumbnail of what the image looks like. It gives you the date when the resource was downloaded. There's a link there so you can download it further. Some of the resources on there is the poster, which is the second one down there. If you download that, print it out, it shows you tips on how to identify phishing email. The top one is one of my favorite ones and one of the most popular, improving your cybersecurity without breaking your budget. This document gives you about a paragraph description talking about several different services. One of them, for example, is the Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center, more commonly called MSISAC. It's a federal nonprofit agency, but they provide training, they provide alerts and benchmarks, which are settings for how you should set your computer. You can subscribe to them and request the level of information that you feel comfortable getting. There's CISA, which is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. It's the lead federal agency dealing with cybersecurity for federal agencies and local governments. So you can sign up for there. They have some no-cost services that you can browse and see if you want to subscribe to it. Further back in there, there's one section that deals with if you want to create a cybersecurity program within your organization, there's a service in there that will help you develop a cybersecurity program, even if you don't have a technical background. What you need to have is good communication skills, being able to talk to different people, different departments. And as you go through the program, it's a webinar, it's a free service, lasts about 5 to 6 hours. You tailor the training to your organization. You stop, you have these activities that you need to complete. And at the end of it, you have a basic cybersecurity program that you can refer back to. One of the other things that we have done is we have taken the typical government, and maybe for a small agency, this doesn't make sense, but we've broken it down that we believe everybody in local government has an important role to play in helping in minimizing cybersecurity risks. All staff should be proactively in protecting information and systems, but sometimes it's hard to know where to start. What should I do? So as part of the Be Cyber Smart program, we developed the profiles of your typical organization and broke it down into 3 different roles, which is leadership, HR, finance, IT, facilities, and legal. And within each one of those roles, we've given them 3 things that they should work on. For example, finance. We say you should fund cybersecurity. You should protect any confidential information you have, such as bank routing number, bank accounts information, credit card information. You should keep that confidential. And you should ensure any of your third-party contracts ensure that they address cybersecurity within those contracts before you sign those. So those are just 3 roles for finance, and then each of the others have their own. So we kind of did the arguing for you. So if you share those within the departments, people can kind of see where they're at for this. One other thing that we have had is asking you to subscribe to our weekly newsletter, a bi-weekly newsletter. The QR code will allow you to sign up for it. We comb the websites and newsletters of other reputable sources, and we find interesting articles, whether it has to do with cybersecurity or finances, we put it in there. We also write our own articles to deal with cybersecurity and then also financial reporting. If there's changes in the laws or deadlines that you should be aware of, we place that into this newsletter, and it comes out in your email every 2 weeks. And so if you subscribe to it, you can try it out if you haven't already seen it. It's quick and easy. So if you scroll that, take to the QR code, scroll down to the bottom, it only takes 5 pieces of information and you'll be subscribed to it. Do we have any questions?
Yeah. One question.
Go ahead.
Is the cyber checkup like a service that SAO does, or is it part of a fee package?
If I understood the question correctly, is you're asking, is it a standalone service or is it part of a package?
Yeah,
A fee package.
No, there is no cost for the cyber checkup. You contact our office and request it, and we will start setting up essentially you have 3 meetings with us. The first one, like I said, takes about 15 minutes. There's 2 additional meetings in which you meet with me and we go over the checkup first and I gather the information. I scheduled 90 minutes for that, so it varies a little bit on how long that lasts. And then the last meeting where I go over your checkup results, I recommend which ones to address first. I go over the resources available to help address those and what's available. I schedule 2 hours for that. Typically, they don't go that long. I've had some people who are really asking a lot of questions, and I've gone over the 2 hours. But so I do that, as a service, and there is no cost to the organization. And I will add that most of the time, multi-factor authentication can have a cost associated with it. Many times there's ways to implement that where there's no additional cost, but most of my recommendations I can give you without having a cost to the organization. There's a time to set it up or implementing it. I call it the political cost. Are you willing to fight that argument about making a change to the password length? But overall, the cost to implement the recommendations are usually very minimal.
Dan, do you see some common themes as you do these cybersecurity checks throughout agencies?
Yes, one of the most common is policies. And I have 7 different areas that I typically look at for policies because I think it creates a foundation. Some people have, incomplete policies. They may have some written down but they don't have them signed off and dated. I had one policy from 1999, which was the oldest one I found. But so that is one. Multi-factor authentication is another area that oftentimes gets neglected. And password length, amazingly, most people have too short of a password these days. So those are some of the common areas that I see. There are some areas that people are doing pretty well overall, but that would be the ones I would recommend is the policies, multi-factor authentication.
As far as policies are concerned, do you have a good resource, one of those links in one of those resource manuals where we could look to for some policy recommendations or outlines?
Yes, in the summary document, I go over what the 7 policies that I'm looking for, and I talk about what am I looking for within those particular policies. And those are listed on the summary document. But at the bottom there, under the reference and resources, I have 2 different links that take you to policy templates. And the ones I always tell people, you're free to go out on the internet and search for IT policies. There's a ton of them out there and it can get overwhelming. But the ones I chose are in a Word format. They're easy to understand, especially if you're just beginning or don't have a lot of technical background. I will say the acceptable use policy is about 6 pages. What sounds like a lot, but as you read through the template, it covers a lot of different areas that need to be addressed. In 6 pages, I will say, I don't know if anybody in the group is from Seattle. City of Seattle acceptable use policy, I think, is like 22 pages. You know, it's a very complete acceptable use, but it's probably too much for starting out. So between the 2 links that I provide, you can look at the wording and either adopt it for how you're using it, cut and paste it into your organization. But at the end, you end up, and when I talk about 7 policies, you don't have to have 7 separate policies. You could have 1 policy addressing these 7 topics. So.
Mhm. Any other questions in the room? Anything from mine? Dan, will you send Andrew a copy of your presentation so we can include it for as an attachment to our attendees?
Yes, I will. I'll get that included. One other thing, another popular question is, what if I fail the checkup? And I like to remind people, there is no pass or fail. I have had organizations, nobody has ever on that at a glance page had all strong, and then nobody's had all not implemented. So we try to meet you where you're at and have that conversation, help you out. So that's what we're here for. The other part is with these, there is no waiting time. There is no wait list. So if you start to email us, I'll give you a contact here. If you email that address or make that phone call and say, I want a cyber checkup, we'll schedule that first initial meeting, which is 15 minutes. And then you'll get some other dates to schedule further meetings with me. So any other questions?
I think that's it. Thanks so much, Dan. We appreciate your presentation today.
I appreciate it. I've worked with other conservation districts already, and you guys, but I enjoy the work you guys do and talking to you people. So I've enjoyed it. So have a great day.
Good. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.